Good evening from Daytona International Speedway, day 3 of Runoffs qualifying, brought to you by Garmin VIRB. Jeff, Lepper, Heyward, Wagner giving a quick recap of everything that happened today, and it is Mazda Wednesday tonight, Jeff. The folks from Mazda going the extra mile to invite all their competitors and guests here to a big party, starting things a little bit earlier with the kickoff so all those Mazda folks can get over there. It has been a really uneventful day, if we're honest, hasn't it, Jeff?
It really has. It's been one of those, I think, everybody's in that pattern now of going out to do a drive, come back in, work on your car some more. And we saw some improvement on some people. We had some weather. It rained in one of the sessions. Halfway through the Spec Racer Ford session, STU sort of got washed out a little bit. Not all the guys went out in that group. Really one of those, like I always said, we need to do it average time for all 4 days versus it makes people go out. But it was pretty torrential downpour here for about an hour, and it dried out, but I think that really washed a lot of the rubber away. Nobody really went faster after that in the afternoon. One
of the big challenges here at Daytona is it is if you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes climate here in Florida. We saw some rain, we've seen some wind, we've seen some heat, we've seen some cooler sessions. A lot of people expected last night's Spec Miata session to be a much faster session in the cooler temperatures. A lot of guys are trying to guess what day is going to be the day for their class, and a lot of guys are missing that mark.
Yeah, they really are. I think a lot of things changed yesterday. The clouds moved in, the wind came. But we're talking with Joe Huffaker yesterday. He was rejetting his F-Prod car because what happened was the density altitude raised up to almost 800 feet here based on the water grains in the air. So that really, I think the air was bad for the Miatas. So when they got a chance to go out there and try to do their session, if you didn't have that dancing part like we talked about and you didn't have that air right and your fuel right, it just, just messed you up. And we only had 2 guys really go a second quicker than the whole field when we had 18 cars separated by a second yesterday. So that tells you how different conditions were late last night.
Well, it was quite a spectacle, and we'll be talking about the Spec Miata qualifying last night quite a bit more as we go on. A couple of classes I do want to mention before we get into guests. GT1, Michael Lewis is our speed king of the week so far, 197 miles an hour. But today, John Heinrichsey finding some pace. He's been a little bit off the pace in previous sessions. His first session, his best lap was over 3 minutes. Today he found a 148, which is still 3 seconds off of where Lewis is, but he did that 148 in really much more challenging conditions than Lewis ran in.
Yeah, it was no rubber on the track. He said he was all by himself, really didn't capture a draft. So I think a 3-second difference. What do you think that's? He's still doing 185 miles an hour instead of 197 instead. But John Heinrichsey did a lot of work to that car. In the first 2 sessions, they actually had a tire rub on the left front bumper, and he was really worried about that. And he thinks that drag of just the tire rubbing on the front bumper with it pushed back from the aero caused him to have those slower times in that first 2 sessions.
Now, another class that we saw some changes, Joe Huffaker is still on the pole in F production. Eric Prill right beside him. But Kevin Ruck may be one to watch. He ran a 2:12.5 today. The pole time is a 2:12.2. Prill on a 2:12.3. Both of those guys setting those times on day 1. Ruck was the fastest today with that 2:12.5, 2/10 quicker than Huffaker, 4/10 quicker than Prill. So the Honda guys finding some pace in F production.
Yeah, I talked with Sam Myers, his crew chief, and he said that they went to a narrower rear tire to see if that would help here on that car. Of course, it being a front-wheel drive E-production car, wanted to go with that narrow tire, get some more rotation on the infield. They heard everybody talk about set up for the oval, set up for the oval. They did that. Then they went back to that, getting the road course setup done, and it seems to really help them.
And it's really been a theme of the week so far, the guys who try to make the pace on the oval. All these cars are fast on the oval. They all handle great in that proverbial straight line. It's the guys that are getting it done in the infield. Somebody who found something today, Formula V, Michael Verisons, that's a driver who's looking for his 7th consecutive Runoffs pole. Right now, he's missing it by 1/10 of a second with 1 more qualifying session to go. Roger Siebenhaler still sitting on the top of that field from day 1.
Yeah, but he's sitting there in 3rd place, only a 10th of the second out. That tells you how tight that Formula V field is. Don't count out our host Laura there yesterday. She's going to be moving up to that Formula V field. I think that's going to be one of the races I'm going to have to sit on the podium there and watch that.
And the other class I wanted to mention real quick before we kick to our first guest, P1, we saw a few changes there, and I'm not even going to try the last name of this guy. I'm going to hand that one over to you, Jeff.
Which one you got? Which
our second place guy.
Oh, okay, yeah. Gianpaolo Cincimino.
If you have a name like that and you're not driving fast, there is something very, very wrong. But moving well up into the field to sit alongside Jim Downing, and Jim we talked about yesterday, a 4-digit SCCA number, 72 years of age, and 180 miles an hour in a P1 car. What kind of motor's in that car, Jeff?
It's a Suzuki motor. How about that, huh?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Downing, a motorcycle motor.
Downing, a long-time Mazda guy, lots of Mazda history, and we're going to take that as the best segue we can get to bring up a Mazda guy.
Got to have Mazda.
We've got John Doonan here with us, and John's got a microphone. And for those of you that don't follow this world, don't know these guys, John Doonan is really the driving force behind Mazda Motorsports. He's the guy that when Eric Prill has a crazy idea about turning on a bunch of lights and letting the Spec Miatas run at night, John's the guy that gets that phone call and asks him if this is something that Mazda is interested in doing. John, talk to us a little bit about that decision-making process. What was it like when you got the call that said, hey, John, let's do a Spec Miata National Championship race at night?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Heyward and Jeff. It's terrific to be here at Daytona. It was a great call, and at Mazda we like being first, and the opportunity to have the first SCCA National Championship race in all the decades of this great event be under the lights, to have it be Spec Miata, which we all know the dramatic impact that class and that race car in and of itself has had on club racing or sports car racing around the world is fantastic. And to be able to come here last night and watch that qualifying session under the lights was absolutely terrific from a personal and professional standpoint.
You know, this is, for Jeff and I, we're both guys that grew up in the sport. We grew up being kids hanging on a fence and watching the runoffs and watching club racing. I've been watching the runoffs for my entire life, literally. I've never seen excitement like there was last night, and that was just qualifying.
I walked the pre-grid, and the grins, you know, it's pretty dark over there on the pre-grid, and the grins are lighting up the place. Everyone was jumping around, and you could tell the ants in excitement and everybody. But, you know, we brought Tom Long down here to talk with all the drivers, to talk about the idiosyncrasies of racing at night, and also the do's and don'ts of bump drafting at this place, because it can get pretty hairy.
Now, the famous line for Mazda Motorsports is more Mazdas are raced on any given weekend than any other mark. When we talk about Mazda's contribution to the sport, this is a piece of property that cannot be ignored in what Mazda has achieved in North American motorsports. Can you talk a little bit to that history?
Yeah, Daytona is a historic place, and think of the things that have happened here in motorsport with motorcycles and stock cars and sports cars. But we have 23 class wins here at the Rolex 24, and that's really special for, frankly, a little brand out there fighting against some giants. But, you know, the Mazda RX-7 in its debut here in 1979 won its class in the Rolex 24. 2008, 2010 were our last class wins, and I happen to have the opportunity to be part of those. But you mentioned Jim Downing, Amos Johnson, Roger Mandeville, you know, the number of Mazda historic drivers that have won here, it's really something, and the rotary engine has really been the catalyst to all that.
Now, you've been notorious. Mazda has been a big supporter of club racing. Now, does that fit into the Mazda philosophy of this, and why club racing and not sticking money into, say, IndyCar or prototypes? I mean, you do have them now, but it's been the core of club racing always.
Well, if you look at it as a pyramid, the foundation of everything we do is grassroots racing, whether it's the solo side, certainly club racing. It is a business for us. We have 150 customers here, but we have 20,000 in our database that choose to invest in racing a Mazda, which we're grateful for. And then it's easy to go into the boardroom and talk to the executives about it when you have that big of a parts business. And then we give back to the sport in doing things like turning the lights on, and also contingency and the scholarship program that we have on the sports car side and the open wheel side is, so you see us in the top of sports car racing because we're a sports car company, but NASCAR and IndyCar, great things. We work with those groups, but sports car racing is what our brand is all about.
Of course, SCCA Club Racing. You also have the pro side with the MX-5 Cup. Tell us about that brand new Mazda MX-5 car now.
Well, it's been a huge hit away from the racetrack. Anyone that's had the chance to drive that car realizes that our engineers did it again, and they really have got back to the NA car, they found the right balance, and with the Miata, it's always been less is more. So we're really proud of that car. We got a couple of them here in race trim, and we had a couple out at the Solo Nationals.
I'd say me and Heyward have had a chance to drive that car.
Jeff and I were under the impression when we got this gig that we would need to drive the car to be able to speak about it freely and intelligently.
Well, with your big media salaries, I suspect you guys can go out and afford to buy one right today.
Yeah. I'll talk to my boss. You mentioned the car being at Solo Nationals, which was really the first time that the ND was competitively stacked up against other marques. Talk a little bit about what you guys learned there and what you saw about the ND and what kind of a competitor this car is going to be.
Well, I think our approach has been with that car, speed costs money, how fast you want to go. And there's opportunities through the Mazda Speed Motorsports Development Parts Program to buy a simple kit if you want to keep it simple, or go all the way to buying a complete race car in the Global Cup car. So it was awesome to be able to pull that off. In fact, the opportunity to go to the Solo Nationals came up very late in the game, but thanks to our PR department and some vehicles, we worked with Long Road Racing and put them out there on track and gave people the opportunity to drive them. And so we're developing kits there, and obviously the premier part of this is the Global MX-5 Cup, which will launch in 2016. And in fact, next week we're going to launch the price of the car.
Now, do you have a structure for that Global MX-5 Cup? Will there be a global champion, so to speak?
Yeah, so thanks to our partnership with the current MX-5 Cup that runs with SCCA, we have had a scholarship program over the years. The Global Cup takes it to a new level, so in 2016, to cap off the season, you'll see the final Global Cup with drivers from all over the world coming to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca for all the marbles, a chance to test in our IMSA prototype, which is pretty special, and the cream of the crop's going to get a chance to run with us perhaps at some of the long races in the IMSA WeatherTech Championship.
Now, John, I want to put you on a spot for just a second because we're about to bring up a couple of young men that had a heck of a performance last night. Friday night, whose hand are you going to be shaking in victory lane? What's your call?
Well, it's hard to pick out of 60 of them. Last night showed tandems working together, so Carbonell and the BSI guys clearly have something figured out, but you can never count out Drago and Lamb and Todd Burris, so it's going to be a dogfight. I'm going to kind of stand on the sidelines and watch it happen.
It is going to be an absolute spectacle. I know Jeff and I are really looking forward to not having to work during all of it. You can look for me standing on the wall at the apex of turn 1. That's where I will be. Everybody, I think, on this property has hammered out their spot of where they want to watch that race. A huge thank you to you and to Mazda for making this happen. Eric Brill made that phone call and asked you about it, and Mazda stepped up with the financial backing necessary to get these lights turned on. It is not a small investment to do that, and on behalf of everybody that gets to stand back and watch it, we want to just say thank you very much.
Well, thanks, and we hope everybody tunes into the streaming. It's going to be one heck of a race.
Indeed it will. And with that, we're going to let you get to planning this big party you guys go on. We're going to bring Selin, Rollan, and Andrew Carbonell up. And normally we only do folks one at a time, but these guys have been so locked into each other, we thought we'd bring them at the same time. So, guys, if you want to grab a couple of seats here.
They're teammates. They can share the microphone, right?
They can share a microphone. We were going to make them share a chair as close as they were sitting together last night. We thought they might be able to do that.
This is as far apart as they've been since last night. That's right.
Guys, I just want to when we went into qualifying last night, what we expected was that everyone was going to go 0.6 of a second faster just because it was cooler air. It was just that was the magic switch that was going to get thrown. It took most of the session for someone to even get into the 219s. Everybody was stuck in the 220s, and then from our perspective, seemingly out of nowhere, you guys come across with this lap that I didn't even believe was an 18 at first. I called it as a 19 for a good 30 seconds, and Jeff's elbowing me in the ribs going, no, that's a second faster. How did you guys find a full second on a spec field where everybody else was struggling just to match their first times?
Well, first off, just want to say thank you for having us up here. BSI Racing has really gave us the complete package for the weekend. Selin and I have both raced here a few times. We've raced a lot of races together, so we kind of know how each other races and how we work. And we knew this was going to be the session. We knew it was going to be the nighttime. We're going to be cool. There's going to be grip. This is our shot. We got to make it happen. Like you said early on, you weren't seeing those lap times. The reason being, I think a lot of people went out as they qualified on Monday, and we were all kind of set up in groups, and it was a race. It just looked like a qualifying race at that point. Selin and I were trying to get some clean runs. Couldn't happen. People passing left and right. That's why you said it was so exciting. And I said at that point, Selin, let's just back it off. Let's let the egos down, and let's get a run. More important, let's get a run than fight with these guys. We gave it all up. We found some empty space, and we were able to put a lap together down. Perfect lap. Got drafts right where we needed it. And coming out of the bus stop, I knew it was going to be the one. We were on the radio just saying, this is it. This is it. Watch, guys, telling the crew. And the crew was yelling before we even crossed the line. So as soon as we crossed the line, they saw the time come up, and everybody was just ecstatic.
Now, when I caught up with you guys in Impound last night, it was electric. Everybody was so excited. If no one had gone faster, everyone would have been so excited. But you guys were just in a totally different brain space than everybody else going into this. What I want to know is, as much as you can, you mentioned it already, talk about what the radio communication was like on that lap. You guys were just so fired up when you came in. What was it like actually in the car, in the helmet, talking to each other on that lap?
It was pretty intense, honestly. Like, there was a lot of emotions going through that radio. I knew after the bus stop, I didn't have any TrackMate or anything. He had the telemetry, and he knew what time we were going to get. He was actually counting down. He said, okay, we have a 19.0. Okay, we have an 18.9. Okay, 18.8, 18.7. And every time he went down, he just got louder and louder. It was just, I don't know, a lot of emotions going through. And once we passed by, the team saw it on race monitors, saw that we got the pole. And I don't know, we just knew it by 1.2 seconds at that point.
Who was ahead? Who was the lead car?
Andrew was.
So Andrew was ahead.
Yeah.
Got the pole. So did you thank your teammate for that? Oh, did you say
who bought dinner last night?
I think Stu bought dinner.
Stu bought dinner?
Stu bought dinner,
So
right.
let me ask you guys, you were at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca last year. That was a great race. Obviously some drama after the fact.
Right.
The Runoffs comes all the way across the country to your home state. How important does it feel to you to be able to stand as the pole sitter at the Runoffs here in your home state, representing BSI, representing Mazda, etc.?
It's an honor, really, because the class is extremely competitive. You've got 65 cars out there, and everybody's got a fair chance, especially in the top 15. It's all guys who have won races, won national races, regional races, championships, and they've all got a fair shot at it. And it's a matter of putting this lap together to give yourself the opportunity to win at the end of the day. And the reality is, come Friday, it's going to be a roll of dice.
Where do you want to be coming out of the bus stop on the last lap?
Speaking from prior experience, I've raced races here where you could be the lead car, or you could be the fourth car, or you could be the sixth car or the second car. It's going to be luck of the draw, really, because it can be. I've seen some phenomenal finishes here at Daytona in Spec Miata class. I really don't know the right spot, to be honest.
I want to ask Selin a similar question. We'll pass the mic over here. You come out of the bus stop on the last lap, perfectly executed race. You guys have been locked in the whole play. You've put 30 seconds on the field. You're checked out. You're sitting on his bumper. What happens in NASCAR 4?
We actually talked about this in dinner last night. We're going to be on the radio the whole time. We're going to be talking, strategizing throughout the race. But once it comes to that last race, the radio is probably going to go silent, and it's just going to be our race. It's going to be a friendly battle between Andrew and I.
Before we get too far down the what-if path, I also want you guys to take a moment. What can you tell us about the support you're seeing from Mazda this week and through your history of the sport? Obviously, BSI is a great name in motorsports. You guys have a great long-term relationship with Mazda. Can you talk a little bit about what that's been like for you guys as you've developed your team and your cars and your driving?
I mean, Mazda's awesome. I love Mazda. I love Mazda. I love the support that I'm seeing here in the Runoffs. I've never in a club racing level, you don't see all that, and then they have the cars on display. You get parts wherever you want. I don't know. It just creates such a great class of racing, such a tight class.
Yeah, to add to that, I think what a lot of people realize is that the Mazda brand ends up being a family. And here at the track, here at the Runoffs, you really feel that with the Mazda banquet we'll have tonight, you'll have every Mazda competitor here is invited to attend that. John's going to put on a great party for all of us, and that really brings every competitor together and exemplifies and shows that family brand that we like to see, and that family feel that Mazda gives us here at the racetrack. And there's, I personally haven't seen that with other brands, and it's only something I've experienced with Mazda, and it really it brings a whole nother element to the racetrack, and really makes you proud to be a part of this brand.
Well, you guys are going to strategize from the very beginning, green flag lap, the whole race long. You got it all scripted out. we'll see how that plays out. I know Heyward, myself, will be watching around here somewhere else. You got Greg Creamer, Dorsey Schrader going to call the action live at scca.com/live.
How cool is it to know that Dorsey Schrader is going to be calling your championship race?
That's great. I mean, that's somebody with tons of experience, tons of enthusiasm, so I'd love to hear that broadcast.
Well, hopefully we'll have one of your names called for the championship race, and good luck to you both of you guys.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, Jeff, before we wrap things up, we talked a little bit about our heroes from the first couple of days. Anybody today, very challenging conditions, different conditions, who stood out to you as a top-level performer?
Well, I mean, you got to go back to where you talk about Kevin Ruck. I was talking about him, and he's had some great success. He's had some bitter defeats here in the runoffs in his history. So to see him come down, put it together, and Sam Myers is a personal friend. He was my old crew chief. And to see him still continuing on, especially with the Honda brand, doing a good job there, I really proud more of Sam, I think, getting that car set up and getting what he's done. And his daughter's got cancer and leukemia, and we talk about Super Max and the fight for Max then with Eric Prill's son, Max. He's going to be here. I can't wait to see Max, man. We got to have Max on the show is what we got to do. We got to get little Max on this show, man. Come on, Eric, let's do it. Super Max, we want you here, bud.
Can we do that? Can we put kids on the show? Do we have? It's internet television. We're good. Yeah, we can do kids.
We can do that.
Yeah,
they don't have like a certain time we have to have, and then the nanny, and they can be watered and all that.
I've always been told don't work with children or pets, but I'm willing to work with Max.
I think it'll work great. But it was a great day. I think the weather wasn't what we expected for a lot of guys. A lot of guys I know showed up late. They actually was like, well, it's going to rain tomorrow. We're just not going to be here, and only rained out one session. That's going to hurt a lot of guys. I talked with Carl Young with the Chevy Cobalt and STU a little bit earlier, and they've had nothing but problems with that car. Put new brakes on it. They were ready to go bed those pads, get the new rotors ready for the race, and now he's got to do that in that final qualifying session. He lost his time, had the wrong air restrictor in the car, so he doesn't have a great qualifying time. He's going to want to bed brakes and try to set a qualifying time in that last session. He's got his work cut out for him.
Absolutely. The name that stood out to me today is Michael Versens. Nobody else in Formula V really set the next closest driver to set their top time today is back in the 17th spot. He managed to move up into second. Will sit outside the front row in all likelihood. They may go faster tomorrow. Who knows? But Versens is one of those guys who's you're looking at a class that has a 50, 60-year history. He's still discovering new technical developments that nobody else has done. He's pushing that envelope further and further down the path. Had a very disappointing run last year at Mazda Race with Laguna Seca. Effectively taken out of the race in the fifth corner of the track. You can tell by the dedication that he's really looking to right that wrong.
Yeah, he really is. He takes that car apart after every session and checks every single item. He changed 3 Heim joints that he said, these are dirty. I want to put new ones on. That's the level of detail he's got on his car. So to see him come out here and succeed, he's going to be who I'm rooting for in Formula V.
Now, of course, tomorrow is Tire Rack Pole Day. Tomorrow we will be officially discovering who all of our pole sitters are. When we do the recap show tomorrow evening, we'll talk about each of those pole positions. And then when we get into Friday morning, it is the first of the 3 race days. Live coverage on SCCA.com/live. Dorsey Schrader, Greg Kramer, Rick Benjamin, yourself calling in the booth. I'll be in the pit lane. What right now, we'll talk about Friday night later, but aside from that Miata race, what are the things that you were really looking forward to as we get into these race days?
I'm really looking forward to these open wheel cars. All the open wheel classes are the ones I want to watch. Those are where aero matters to those cars. So to get a draft, I think that's going to be really cool to see. Those are cars that you don't normally expect to see at Daytona Speedway, to see how they react in a draft once they get in a group. We can talk all we want about qualifying. You can back up, find a gap, go by yourself, find a partner, but you get 10 or 12 open wheel Formula F cars together, it's going to be exciting to see them around the bank part of the oval here at Daytona.
I'm going to have my eye on the production categories. I think H-Prod is going to be a great battle. You've got some new blood, I know. I'm sorry, Jeff. But
no car for me.
I was talking to Jason Isley today, and he said one of the things that he's going to be watching is how the cars with the 13-inch wheels handle the duration of the race. That is a lot of revolutions on a race tire. He's running a taller wheel tire package. It's going to be interesting to see how those things play out. I think E-Production, where you have a Porsche on the pole right now, a Porsche whose driver has been MIA from the event for the last couple of days. We're not really sure what's going on with him, but that car has not gone out since the pole time was set. Sitting beside him is just a gnarly old Z car, 240Z. And then in F-Prod, you've got as cagey a veteran as they come in Joe Huffaker, and then you've got Eric Prill right beside him, a guy who's poured his heart and soul into this event and club and really wants to produce that result. Those, I think, are going to be three of the best races we'll see all week.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to watch the races that I'm not announcing and calling, because it's that exciting to see that. So make sure you tune in, scca.com/live. It's going to be exciting to see.
All right, Jeff, well, thank you for sitting down with us for recapping Wednesday here at the SCCA Runoffs presented by Garmin VIRB. We'll be back with tomorrow night's recap. Follow live timing and scoring at scca.com/live, and we will see you tomorrow evening.